We are planning to use our best people on this, to work with CEPI, to make sure that we put a focus on finding the good solutions.
Men dessverre så sirkulerer det også I tillegg alvorlige konspirasjonsteorier knyttet til lovforslaget fra regjeringen som vi nå behandler.
To push this on the World Health Organization's agenda, to make sure that, because that's the platform where you can have all the governments, all the health authorities around the world to operate together.
Det også helt utenkelig at det store flertallet av verdens land skulle være interessert I å gi Verdens helseorganisasjon slike fullmakter I fremtiden. Og jeg vil derfor benytte denne anledningen til å slå tydelig fast at det på ingen måte grunnlag for disse påstandene.
We are good at bending all of those regulatory systems when people are dying. But when we are just thinking about the potential of people are dying, that might lead to not reaching the time limit for the next epidemic, which we should try to do.
Jeg håper vi alle, uansett hvordan vi ønsker å utforme smittevernloven, kan være enige om å avvise disse konspirasjonsteoriene som fullstendig grunnløse.
It is 70 years since a group of leaders met in Washington to discuss the creation of the United Nations. One of the most fundamental tenets of the new world order created in 1945 was the respect for international recognized borders.
What are we able to keep on the positive side from the old order to bring into a new world order, and how can we avoid that new world order becomes like a jungle growing back? And
NWO, som åpenbart en konspirasjonsteori om verdensherredømme. Dette ville være veldig dumt hvis vi skulle gå ut av FN. Og denne New World Order, det noe sprøyt som funnet opp av konspirasjonsteoretikere, og den eksisterer ikke. Det eksisterer hardt arbeidende internasjonale politikere og nasjonale politikere som forsøker å løse verdens grunnleggende problemer gjennom bærekraftsmålene.
Men det alvorlige også det prinsipielle. Nå var I vår Fremskrittspartiet det eneste partiet som ikke ville være med på en skrivning I Stortinget om betydningen av en FN-ledet verdensorden.
Og denne New World Order, det noe sprøyt.
FN-ledet verdensorden.
Og denne New World Order, det noe sprøyt som funnet opp av konspirasjonsteoretikere.
FN-ledet verdensorden.
Om jeg kan få oss ut av FN og Parisavtalen, legge ned noe han kaller NWO, som åpenbart en konspirasjonsteori.
FN-ledet verdensorden.
Om verdensherredømme.
FN-ledet verdensorden.
Om verdensherredømme. Dette ville være veldig dumt hvis vi skulle gå ut av FN. Det å gå ut av Parisavtalen betyr bare at klimautfordringene våre vil bli enda større.
At hvis vi vedtar FN-resolusjoner I Sikkerhetsrådet, og ingen villig til å sørge for at de kan gjennomføres, da har et av SVs veldig viktige mål gått tapt, nemlig at vi ønsker en FN-ledet verdensorden.
Og denne New World Order, det noe sprøyt som funnet opp av konspirasjonsteoretikere.
Nemlig at vi ønsker en FN-ledet verdensorden.
FN-ledet verdensorden.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Og denne New World Order, det noe sprøyt som funnet opp av konspirasjonsteoretikere.
Today is the first full day of the New World Order, Outdoor gatherings are limited to 2 people. Exercise is allowed, but no further than a 10-kilometre radius from your home. Browsing in shops is not permitted. Only 1 person per household may leave to do essential shopping. And from tomorrow, funerals are limited to 10 people.
This is a world pandemic. It's a 1 in 100-year event. So you can expect that we will have transmission from time to time, and that's just the way it is. We've got to accept that this is the new world order. We've got to accept that this is the new world order. This is the new world order. This is the new world order.
It is a big idea, a new world order. We can find meaning and reward by serving some higher purpose than ourselves, a shining purpose, the illumination of 1,000 points of light.
It's no longer a theory. What I'm about to say is fact. The secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret. They have planned and are now leading us into a one-world communist government. This is terrorism of the most worst kind, brought on you by our own government.
To lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
Og denne New World Order, det noe sprøyt som funnet opp av konspirasjonsteoretikere.
Nemlig at vi ønsker en FN-ledet verdensorden.
FN-ledet verdensorden. FN-ledet verdensorden. FN-ledet verdensorden.
Here's how Agenda 21 is defined by the United Nations. A comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, governments, and major groups in every area in which humans impact the environment. Wow, that's kind of broad. Now, it has been adopted by more than 178 governments. I believe there's only 191 on the planet. The United Nations had their big conference on the environment and development in Rio back in 1992, and that's when everybody jumped on board. But it sounds harmless. It's only Agenda 21. Yeah, go look this one up, because it's not so harmless. And it really, can I tell you something? You have to dig pretty deep into this thing. I mean, because look at all this. It doesn't get spooky until about here. Just section 1. Social and economic dimensions, which talks about the redistribution of wealth, changing consumption patterns, promoting health, I love this one, change population, and sustainable settlement. That's good. Then a little later, when it talks about the redistribution of wealth, which we all love, quote, developed countries and funding agencies should provide specific assistance to developing countries in adopting an enabling approach to the provision of shelter for all. So that's like guaranteed housing. Well, that's going to be great because the government's going to own all of our houses anyway because we're all going broke because of this. Reading through the pages, it becomes clear sustainable development is just a really nice way of saying centralized control over all of human life on planet Earth. That doesn't sound bad. It starts to make more sense when you see who's responsible for all of this. First, Gro Harlem Brundtland. I love her. I don't really know how to say her name because I don't know anybody who names their child with the first name G-R-O, Gro. But here she is, strong like bull. She happens to be the first vice president of Socialist International, which I read in Newsweek, we're all socialists now, just like Gro. Totally unrelated to her work at the UN is her socialist work, I'm sure. She's also really close friends with the Clintons. Oh, they get along so great. Where is she? Oh, there she is. Yoo-hoo! Right here. There she is. She's also active in the Clintons' Global Initiative. She's there for the annual meetings. Yeah. She was there when Hillary received a German Media Award in 2005. And here's Hillary wishing her dear friend happy 70th birthday. Watch. Here she is.
As a former environment minister, a longtime advocate for sustainable development and most recently as a United Nations Special Envoy for Climate Change. You helped set the stage for intensive diplomatic and scientific work being done on this issue today.
Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Gro wasn't just there. Come on, she's being modest here. Gro wasn't just there. She coined the term sustainable development in a 1987 missive entitled Our Common Future.
Unless poverty is alleviated, there is no chance that we will be able to stabilize the world population. It has grown by 500 million since the Commission last met 5 years ago. We must deal with population growth through an integrated approach, including education and the enhancement of the status of women, improved public health and family planning. During preparations for this conference, many developing countries declared themselves ready to make political commitments to curb population growth towards full implementation of Agenda 21. But there is a time bomb ticking, and when the world population doubles and the world economy increases, fivefold or tenfold, we need nothing less than to build a global democracy. We need nothing less than to build a global democracy.
FN-ledet verdensorden. FN-ledet verdensorden. FN-ledet verdensorden.
Og denne New World Order, det noe sprøyt som funnet opp av konspirasjonsteoretikere.
So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again in how we are used to normal, in the old fashion. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
Konspirasjonsteorier kan være farlige dersom de får fotfeste. Det kan føre til polarisering og til mistillit. I ytterste konsekvens så kan de true demokratiet. Det har vi dessverre sett I flere land.
This year's meeting came at a critical and complex moment, not only for the world, but for each person in it. We know the foundation of cooperation, trust, has been eroding in recent years, which is why this week's meeting on rebuilding trust has been so important.
And this makes the theme of this year's Davos meeting even more relevant. Rebuilding trust. This is a time to build trust. This is a time to drive global collaboration more than ever before.
We had an order after the Cold War, post-Cold War order that was based on rule of law, acceptance of the UN Charter, and that order seems to not be the order anymore. We are on the way to a new order, so we are between orders. Do you agree with that, or are there ways of what are we able to keep on the positive side from the old order to bring into a new world order, and how can we avoid that new world order becomes like a jungle growing back, and we rather have an order based on international law and the principles that have brought us prosperity and freedom for decades.
What we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young noble leaders of the World Economic Forum.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I listened to my colleague's speech. I had a constituent that wanted me to ask a question about outside interference to our democracy. Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum, and he bragged how his subversive WEF, World Economic Forum, has, quoted, infiltrated governments around the world. He said that his organization had penetrated more than half of Canada's cabinet. And I was wondering, in the interest of transparency, could the member please name which cabinet ministers are on board with the WEF's agenda? My concern is the deputy.
Order. I know that the member was in a really good question there, but the audio is really bad, and the video is really bad as well.
Kronprinsesse Mette-Marit deltar for første gang I år på Verdens økonomiske forums avdeling for Young Global Leaders.
Hva synes kronprinsessen om sin første dag på Young Global Leaders-møtet I går?
For meg så jo det ganske spennende å være her I Davos for første gang. Jeg har jo hørt så mye om denne gruppa gjennom kronprinsen som har jobbet med det I 5 år og vært Young Global Leader og engasjert seg veldig aktivt ved det.
Jeg jo ferdig som Young Global Leader nå, og ble det I fjor. The Young Global Leaders are involved in redesigning our world. We are part of the larger picture of the World Economic Forum's Global Redesign Initiative, and we have launched our website at redesignOurWorld.com.
When we come together in the World Economic Forum meeting, of course, we discuss economics and the big questions, poverty alleviation and climate change, how to integrate and get the most out of youth, the resource that youth represents. But when we discuss all these big issues, we got to also remember that values are actually the foundation of what we are doing. So how we see each other, how we interact with each other, that is important. And I hope to contribute in a small way in putting that on the agenda for the meeting.
Thank you very much. Henry Kissinger has been a friend of mine. I've liked him, I've respected him, but we've been friends for a long time, long before my emergence in the world of politics, which has not been too long. But we have been really in the, I guess you'd say the New York seat a little bit, but we got to know each other very well. He's a man I have great respect for. He's also somebody, usually I say, have you ever been in the Oval Office? And with Henry Kissinger, I didn't bother asking that question because he has been in this office many times. But it's an honor to have Dr. Kissinger with us, a man of immense talent.
I'm here at a moment when the opportunity to build a constructive, peaceful world order is very great.
The fourth industrial revolution has become a reality. So when we build the post-COVID world, when we do the Great Reset, one of the most important places to start will be to ensure that the fruits of the fourth industrial revolutions are really shared by all.
I, Antonio Guterres, solemnly swear to exercise in all loyalty, discretion and conscience, the functions entrusted to me, as Secretary General of the United Nations, to discharge these functions, and regulate my conduct, with the interests of the United Nations only in view, with the interests of the United Nations only in view,
with the interests of the United Nations only in view, with the interests of the United Nations only in view,
and not to seek or accept instructions in regard to the performance of my duties from any government or other authority external to the organization.
Most of the work we're going to do to be ready for pandemic 2, I call this pandemic 1, Most of the work we'll do to be ready for that are also the things we need to do to minimize the threat of bioterrorism. So we, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time. So we, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time.
We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
He wants to garner all of the assets in the world, trillions out of his mouth, for his disposal. And he's not referring to himself. It's an other that he's referring to.
With trillions at his disposal, far beyond global GDP.
He follows that by saying, basically, the world leaders aren't smart enough to pull this off.
And with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders.
Which refers back to the his. That's why it has to be in this power.
Here we need a vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector.
So he's advocating an individual, in my assessment, that's going to run in a military style, is marshaling his word again, the assets, the people, and the will to change the climate. But it's really a consolidation of power in one entity, and that's the scary part. I refer back to the word his. There's no precursor in his. I looked at the whole speech. There's no precursor to who his refers to. It's just an entity. It's a personal pronoun of somebody. It's an individual. I have a Christian background. Could be the Antichrist. I don't know. To fundamentally change the financial system. So we have cryptos, we have fiat, we have gold, we have silver, and we have countries that are printing money. The United States is the leader in that they don't have. Debt. And you can't do that. You can't run a business, a country, anything on that. So what are you going to do? Collapse it? And what happens then with COVID? With the supply chain issues, with all of these things that are all distractions, because the ultimate thing is the power grab.
It offers the only real prospect of achieving fundamental economic transition.
It's the one. And I believe that man has an idea of what the one is. And it ain't a good thing.
World order, Mr. Rothschild. Right. New world order. Depopulation.
Oh, listen, who are you...
Genocide.
Who are you televising for?
Well, we're independent.
Yeah.
Filmmakers. But you have nothing to say, Mr. Rothschild.
So what about the depopulation? I mean, Memorandum 200. Why are you afraid to talk about your depopulation plan?
Why don't you get lost?
Why should I get lost? It's serious.
Sick person.
Sick person? How am I sick? You're the one committing...
You're killing a lot of people! You're killing a lot of people! Live here! Leave Chile right now! Leave Chile! Leave Chile! We don't want your world government! Leave Chile right now!
About how, the family committed all these acts against society, but we just want to let you know the New World Order has no legitimacy. And that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banks who are looting the economy with the Federal Reserve.
Well,
Mr. Rothschild, how you doing, sir? Can you tell us what went on at the Bilderberg meeting this year?
Sorry?
Can you tell us what went on at the Bilderberg meeting this year?
I didn't get that, actually, no.
The Bilderberg, you weren't there?
No.
What went on last year?
No, I wasn't there last year. I think that was my cousin.
Your cousin was there?
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Do you have a couple minutes for us, Mr. Rothschild? We have a few additional questions. I was definitely a question inside of as I was saying that the Federal Reserve was one of these organizations. One of these organizations that a lot of people say is the source of any main private charge across the world because it's a private bank that was started by your family.
No, it's completely untrue. I was asked that earlier. It really isn't true. No.
Jekyll Island? Jekyll Island, 1913, sir? I mean, but sir, just one thing. We could go on about how, your family committed all these acts against society, but we just want to let you know the New World Order has no legitimacy. And that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banksters who are looting the economy with the Federal Reserve.
Well,
Just want to let you know the New World Order has no legitimacy, and that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banksters who are looting this economy with the Federal Reserve.
Well,
the Rothschilds family did start the Federal, they divided Europe first, took over Europe, Napoleon.
Don't exaggerate.
No comment on that, sir?